Well, hey, welcome to the Faith, Relationship, and Community podcast, where we talk about all things faith, relationship, and community. And my name is Noah. I'm the lead pastor here at Morningside Lutheran Church. And today, I have with me Diane and Harlan, good friends of mine now. It's pretty cool. They've been part of Food Pantry and board of the food bank. And so we're going to be talking about Food Pantry, not just the nuts and bolts of it, but what we see out there. And Harlan, as we talked about yesterday, just some trends that we've seen really more recently within the last 6 months, I think you said. And so we're going to talk about some of that stuff, but thank you for being here. Appreciate it and having this conversation. And first, just tell us about yourself and maybe how long you've been part of the Food Pantry and Food Bank.
Okay. Well, I retired in 2018. After I retired, a good friend of mine does Mercy Meals. So I volunteered at their Mercy Meal packaging events.
Yeah.
And when I was doing that, I found out that Morningside Lutheran had a food pantry. So I got involved with that, and I guess the rest is history.
You've been there since.
Been there since.
And you guys are both, I always joke around, you kind of live here. The Food Pantry team, you guys are just dedicated around the clock, and we'll talk about obviously what times we do all that, but it's a big commitment, and you've been committed to that. What about the food bank? How long you been connected with the food bank?
I believe 4.5 years I've been on the board with food bank.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Harlan, what about you? What got you involved, and how long you been doing that?
Well, I dropped off a donation at our food pantry fundraising table before church one morning in November 5 years ago, and was asked if I could come over to the food bank the following Tuesday and help haul some things back to church. I did, and we unloaded the stuff and was asked if I could come back the next day and help with distribution. That was in November of 2018, so I've been doing it since then and became more involved as time went on.
So you stopped by the table and did you tell them you had a truck and that's how you got involved?
Well, they knew I did.
Yeah, they knew you did. That's right. I know. It's good to have a truck. Yeah, to be able to haul all that. But you've been pretty much since then, pretty consistently. You're here numerous times out of the week, setting up and helping out, and especially since we've shifted our distribution downstairs. By the way, how has that been going? Distribution downstairs?
Actually, very well.
Yeah.
We had a few adjustments, but it works well. It's really convenient for us as far as storage, having everything in one level and in one site. So before we were bringing things up and down this elevator, things like that. So it's worked out well.
We've seen a lot of different looks of Food Pantry since it began, and especially like pre-COVID and then post-COVID. But used to run everything up here in our foyer, have people come in, right? Back in that time. And now, kind of talk about the process of what happens when a car rolls into our parking lot.
Oh, boy. Well,
yeah.
Okay. So, before we could see the people come through, which was kind of nice because you got to know the people. We could see them through the glass windows, up here. Downstairs, we're a little more sheltered away from them, but Harlan usually does the registering, goes out and registers the clients. I call them clients. And finds out their family size. We give out food based on family size.
Yeah.
So then if there's certain things we need to ask them about, like last week we had milk. Well, not everybody can drink milk, so we'll ask if they could use milk.
Yep.
Then we have a meat table. We have a bread table. We have a canned food type table, and then we have a produce table, and the cart goes to each table, and we give out things based on family size.
We also have a component which I've loved with just gathering prayers from the cars that are coming through. We've got a few people who do that in particular.
Yep.
Yeah, which is really neat. When did we start doing that?
Maybe a year ago.
Roughly
I would
a year
say,
or so ago.
Yeah.
We don't make it, we want them to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell us, you know, it's not you're not going to get food. Yeah. You're not going to get food, but The two girls that do it most of the time are very good at it, and just offer a prayer if they need it, and we put them on the list, and then the church prays for them during the week.
Would you say about how often are people receptive to sharing a prayer?
A lot.
Yeah.
The majority
some
of the
days-
time. Yes.
Majority of the time.
Yeah. Some
Yeah.
days we have 3 pages full of prayers.
Yeah. You learn about a lot of needs.
Hmm.
Harlan, you and I have talked in particular about like just you've seen people and you kind of get to know them because they've been around and now you've seen them for a couple of years. And some are just going through a season of life where maybe you'll see them short term and you might not see somebody again, but it's great that they're able to utilize in a time of need. But talk about like just over the years, just some of the people you've connected with and you have to use names, of course, by any means, but how meaningful that is to you as you see some of these people and you've interacted with them over the years.
Well, you do get to know them as you see them and talk to them, register them, and you hear stories from people about sometimes their personal circumstances or something that's going on in their life. And that's where the people doing prayers are really helpful too, because they spend a little more time with them. I'm usually busier because I've got to get back inside and get things going. But, there's people that I guess I didn't realize the extent of the need until I actually got involved with the food pantry. We would contribute money to the food bank, to the food pantry at church, but I never realized the extent of the need until I started doing it. And there are people that have very limited income. Some people that are disabled, they're retired, they can't work, that really rely on food pantries throughout the community to help them get through their month. And I think one of the things I've seen over the last, especially 6 to 8 months, is a trend to some bigger families with children coming to the food pantry.
Yeah.
And you'll hear comments from people like, my husband and I both work, but with 3 kids or 4 kids, we can't make it to the end of the month very easily. So, and I just tell people that's why we're here, and doing that. And people are very appreciative of what we do. And it's just what we do is its own reward in a way, because, you're helping people, you're doing God's work out there in essence. And it's to me, it's its own reward. That's what I tell people, the work we do it's meaningful to me. So,
yeah. And you don't really know who's having a hard time at home with food. I know we've talked to, there can be a lot of like pride in even coming through a food pantry line or at least just coming to a point where, that's as a culture that it's hard to ask for help. And this is a way, and really a visible way to ask for help that might be very difficult for people to come to. And we've talked about that before. But you just don't know who's dealing with what issue at home. And we're able to do that.
We had a family, a gentleman that came routinely, and he suddenly passed away. And his sons, I think his 2 sons, let the church know that he had passed.
Yeah.
And said how grateful and how happy his dad was to be able to come.
Really?
Yeah. So after that, we did gather up some items and drop it off at the house because they lived fairly close here. But, you get to know these people, and heartwarming really to be able to help them.
You make those connections. You get to know them. They get to know you.
Yep.
And there's kind of a sense of trust in that, I would imagine.
Yep.
And we've had several people even come by maybe on a Sunday morning. Again, not that that's the ploy. I mean, we're the hands and feet of Christ. We see a need. There's a great need. And you're saying once you're exposed to it, you don't really know how great the need is until you're in a much bigger need now. But to be those ambassadors of Christ, for us to say, this is an on-ramp to maybe faith conversations. And we've seen some people come in and seeing them on a Wednesday night Lent service. I know we've had some folks come in or a Sunday morning, and just to be comfortable with that interaction, all because, we care. We care that there are homes that don't have food appropriately.
Or a baptism.
We've had, what was that? Last year? Was that about a year ago now?
About a year ago.
Yeah,
Hope Street guys.
We had a Hope Street guy, which that's another element of this that I love. I mean, the Hope Street men that come in, and just serving alongside one another, just opened the eyes and the heart of one man, and he wanted to be baptized, and we baptized him and his buddy too that was there filming the event.
Yep.
I forgot about that. He was filming it, and he was in tears, just moved by that too. And
That's
so,
neat.
yeah, that was neat. So talk about that. So we have a ministry, Hope Street Ministries, that deal with men who are in recovery, and they've been working alongside Food Pantry for a long time now. You guys get to know them quite well. Talk about some of those relationships and dynamics.
I think it's just a neat thing. They do community service as part of their stay at Hope Street, and it's neat to watch them as they go out. They help us load cars and stuff, and the way they relate to people. And most of them just are really good at talking to people and saying, "Where do you want me to put this stuff?" Whatever. And then they'll talk to them. And sometimes they run into people that they know. And we've had guys, they'll load the car and they'll tell the driver, the people in the car, "God bless you. Have a good day."
Yeah.
And it's a good thing for us, and it's been neat to see some of those guys progress through their trials, their journey as well, and to move on from Hope Street. We have one guy that started with us probably 4 years ago. Now, once in a while, he comes and picks up other guys when they're done working, and he's independent. He has a job. He bought a car. It's really neat to see him doing well. So
yeah. So you start to see that over the years. I mean, you see the change. You see that transformation take place. That is real. I mean, some of these guys, obviously, great credit to what Hope Street Ministries, Hope Street is doing, but to be able to come alongside and help out in those relationships that we have is really neat. How many families roughly do we serve?
It's probably almost 400.
About 400 families.
Right. And I think I looked at the numbers. Last year, we had over 4,500 family visits over the course of 2023, and we distributed almost 100,000 pounds of food.
100,000 pounds of food.
Mm-hmm.
That was last year?
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot of food. That's a lot of food being just here, just at this location.
Yes.
I mean, and there are so many locations around the community, I know, but you see that on the food bank side. So kind of shifting gears to that a little bit. Talk about your experience with food bank. It's Food Bank of Siouxland.
Correct.
And so you oversee, how many food banks?
Oh boy,
Putting you on the spot.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 11 counties. They serve 11 counties
okay.
in Iowa. Well, 11 counties total. 8 in Iowa, 2 in Nebraska, and 1 in South Dakota.
Oh, sure. Yep.
So, I mean, there's over 100 agencies they serve. So that's a lot of food that goes out.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes we look at the menu where we order items and it's like, man, there's not, we struggle sometimes.
Yep.
But that's where I like to help at the food bank with fundraising. I like to help with the fundraising.
I don't hear a lot that people like to fundraise. So that's great. Good for you.
I do. And they do, they do a number of things throughout the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about that. And just kind of, what are the conversations on food bank when you're thinking about the food pantries that are there, but then the events that you guys have?
This week they'll be doing Stamp Out Hunger with the Postal Service, that if you've maybe received a bag in your mail, that you fill it up with food or put items that you want to donate. The Postal Service will pick it up and take it to the food bank, and then they ask for volunteers at the food bank on Saturday to go through that food and put it in different boxes based on what it is. So they have that.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
I check my mail twice a week, I think. And so
better
I
check it.
more. That's right. Now I'm going to check it when I get home. See what's there.
And then the Food Fest is coming up. That's usually in June.
Happens every summer.
Yep.
Okay.
It used to be Empty Bowls. We've now changed it to the Food Fest.
Yeah.
That's down at the Expo Center, Seago Triumph Expo Center.
What happens at Food Fest?
Well, they have different food venues that will come, and whether it be your food trucks, they have a few food trucks that come. They have different restaurants that will come and specialize on a certain item that they want to. So then you can buy bites and go around and try different things.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And then this year they're doing a bocce ball tournament.
That's big now.
And then they'll have activities for kids.
Yep.
And then different tables. Our food pantry has sponsored a picnic table.
Yeah.
So we'll have information about what we do here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then in the fall, there's a golf outing.
Okay. And these are things that happen every year pretty consistently.
Yep.
What have been some of the just great needs that you guys have been talking about as a board? You had a meeting the other day. Is that right?
The agency meeting.
The
Yep.
agency meeting. Yeah.
Yep. Well,
are there some points that helpful to bring up? And
I think everybody struggles with, when you serve as many families, 400 families a month,
yeah,
you go through a lot of food.
Yeah.
So any donation, it may be any donation is good.
Monetary
and food.
Yeah.
That's why this year at church here we encourage people to plant an extra row.
Talk about that. I think that's really cool. That's new this year.
Right. Many people in the congregation work full time.
Yep.
They have other things that they need to do, but would like to help.
Yeah.
Well, this is a way you can help. If you have a garden, if you're a farmer, plant an extra row. Sweet corn. Everybody loves sweet corn.
Oh, yeah. We're Iowans.
Yeah.
We like our corn.
Yep. Any produce that you would have in your garden, if you have more than you need, feel free to bring it to church. We'll give it away.
This is for anybody who might have even a small garden or a farm.
Exactly.
Right? We really want. And what a cool way to bless a congregation. And we got a lot of farmers, and there's a lot of farmers in general that go to many different churches too. But just to think about that devoting one row to that food need that's around this area.
And eggs. We have people in the congregation that donate eggs.
Yeah.
And that is one of those things we love to give out too.
So you're talking X amount of pounds of food just here, but across the counties that we cover. Yep. That's a lot of food. Where does all of it come from generally?
Exactly.
When you're thinking about there have been very generous larger businesses, organizations that help provide food or cut costs substantially. What are some of those places?
Well, Seaboard Triumph is a big supporter of the food bank.
That's great.
Tyson, Hy-Vee helps us. You know, there's sometimes that there's items that aren't on the menu that we can get that we'll work with Hy-Vee and they'll give it to, we pay for it, but it's maybe a little reduced rate. So,
right. That's very generous of those places that wouldn't need to otherwise, but they're also recognizing the need.
Right. And Kemp milk. We'll get milk at the food bank. Yeah. Purdue just donated a lot of chicken. So there's, I hate to say specific places because there's a lot of places that are
that's not listing all of them. There's many more out there.
There's many more and it's so appreciated.
Yeah, that's really neat. For both of you, so we kind of talked about how you got into this. What keeps you doing this? When you're thinking about obviously the commitment to it, but there's something more to that. There's just that heart piece where it just kind of keeps you in on it. So Harlan, I'll start with you. What just drives you in this industry?
I just like doing it. Like I said earlier, it's rewarding, personally, but I work with a lot of good people and we have fun doing it. And and when I look out and see the people we help, it's just, that's what keeps me doing it.
Great. How would you?
Ditto.
Yeah, that's right. Same.
I'm blessed. Many people aren't.
You see the hurt.
Yep.
Hard times and the hardships. And that can be difficult. I was talking with in our last episode we had Sleep in Heavenly Peace and just talking about the beds that are in need around Siouxland And so, that's a real need, but you're not exposed to a need like that unless you're involved in it and you see it and you're thinking right in our backyard. But I think it's about the same thing with hunger when I'm here. And I remember my first day here 4 years ago, not my first day, but when I was interviewed around this time, it would have been around this time, that I rolled up and there's this big line wrapped around somewhere of cars. And I didn't know anything about the church and food pantry and all that. And so it was just really cool to see. But now that I think about that now, to think this has always been just such a need. But I think about the lines of cars that in this parking lot, especially certain times of the year. I mean, those all obviously represent people who are having a difficult time, and that there's a humility in them being able to come here and receive food in this way. That's really neat. What when you're thinking about food pantry, what's a way that people can really kind of help out? And whether it's food bank, food pantry that we have here, is there a need for extra hands?
Well, there's opportunities to volunteer with us. I mean, you have to realize that it's kind of physical work in some respects.
Yeah.
So, there are days it's kind of difficult. You spend a bunch of time on your feet and lift heavy things, but there's also opportunities for people to volunteer at the food bank. And I think they would probably contact Liam if they're interested, and they need volunteers.
Yeah.
Right.
And monetary contributions, food contributions, that all of those ways do help.
Right. Yeah, that's good. And we'll have some of that information tagged to this too. I mean, just whatever is good contact information to get a hold of, whether it's here or at the food bank. Would you add to any of that?
Yeah, they have a backpack program.
Okay.
Where, it's a good opportunity. You have maybe high school kids that need honor society hours, service hours, youth groups, they take up to 15 kids.
Oh, really? Okay.
That go down to the food bank and they package in a Ziploc bag items that will go home with these kids on Fridays when they go home, and that's food for the weekend.
Yeah.
So the backpack program is one of the things down there that they could really
Is that year round?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, they have summer programs,
Sure. Yeah.
but the
Unique to
backpack,
summer,
the backpack would be during the school time.
Yeah, during the school year.
Yep.
Okay. But still throughout the school year.
So
That's really neat. I didn't know about that. That's cool to be able
With
to
a
bring.
backpack?
Yeah, I
Really?
mean, or just the setup of that. Anyway, I've heard of the program, but I didn't realize students can come into that, and not just students, anybody.
Groups.
But,
They
groups.
encourage groups.
Yeah.
Our food pantry group did it.
Yeah.
And Amy's had some kids from youth groups help too.
Sure. Okay. I've seen those pictures. So that's the backpack program.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
And they've I know they enjoy whenever they can get out and serve together too. But there's a big need for that.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Especially thinking about kids. I mean, that's a whole other topic, isn't it?
Right.
Of we're addressing families that we see, but then it comes to the extent of some kids, they're eating their school meal, and that might be the only. Well, that's sad. That's unfortunate. In a community that is overall, I believe, blessed in that way, and what we can do to help fight that. My heart just goes out to kids and these adults too. It's tough on adults.
Well, we've seen, ourselves, we've seen the price of stuff go up.
Yeah. Yeah, to where, does Aldi ever donate anything? I was curious about that. I know they're able to keep costs low just because of lower staff and all that.
I don't know that we've ever.
We haven't approached them.
We haven't approached them.
Yeah.
The only reason we got hooked up with Hy-Vee was Harlan went to buy bread one day because we didn't have bread to give
it's
out.
when we first started doing the Tuesday night thing, and we didn't have any bread, so they had bread for like 59 cents a loaf or something. So Diane went and bought some bread, and I went and bought some bread to just we'd have something that evening. And I came up to the checkout with big cart full of 15 loaves of bread or something, and one of the guys working there said, "Wow, you're making a lot of stuffing for Thanksgiving." And I said, "We're using it at a food pantry." And he said, "Well, you should talk to the bakery guys here because they have stuff they pull off the shelf and they were giving all of it to one agency. And he said, but I'm sure they would be willing to share it. So I went in and talked to them, and they said, oh yeah, we'd love to help you guys. And we had a young guy named Jeremy that was a bakery manager at the time, really helped us out.
Yeah.
And then another young guy there that we got to know because we had a grant through the dairy farmers we had to use for produce or for dairy products. So when we were buying dairy products, we got to know Seth.
And he left.
Yeah, he left.
Oh,
but he was great. I mean, he would, if they had product that maybe they were changing brands or doing something, he'd call Diane and say, hey, I've got 50 boxes of this or something. I know one time, how many boxes of pizza did we buy?
Oh, I don't know. But one
like
time
half
it was carts.
Yeah,
carts of the mixed veggies and all that. I bet we had 7 carts.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, we paid like $600 for it.
Sure.
But
yep.
yeah, we look at
retail, it's probably a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're looking at the grand scheme of all that and what it costs to buy a loaf of bread.
That's probably 3 years ago.
I know, still.
79 cents a loaf or something. It was on sale, and it was, it wasn't anything special.
The Hy-Vee brand or
it was
that's
something,
right.
but
Not our Sara Lee.
but it's bread. And
it's bread.
So they've been great to work with. They've helped us a lot. And we kind of lost a little bit of our connection with Seth, but we still have someone we deal with.
We need to. I was always going to text him and say, hey, we miss you.
What's he doing now?
Who can we contact now?
Yeah.
I think he's working for area golf courses.
I think he sells chemicals and things like that.
Oh,
like
really?
Turf care stuff.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That sort of thing is what I kind of understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
crazy. But still, that's cool that you still have that connection, though.
Well, it's kind of accidental,
Yeah.
That one of the people there pointed it out to us, and when I told them we were working with the food pantry, and
which reminds me, we should order hot dogs.
We should.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ran low was it last year? We had, I don't know, a bunch of people were called to buy hot dogs.
Well, there was a period where we struggled to get meat. The food bank was struggling. It just wasn't as available at affordable cost.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest items to procure is meat. And proteins are important for people.
And they get their stuff from the USDA commodities, which they never know what they get. They just send stuff up.
Right.
Hence, we get split peas, lentils, garbanzo beans that who knows what to make with them. So we usually try to include a recipe if we have to hand out
garbanzo beans.
Garbanzo beans.
I don't know if
chickpeas.
I can in my head what that is.
Chickpeas.
Okay.
Well, you talk about
know that word a little more.
If you talk about the value of donations, I think Jake Weather's newsletter came in my mail Monday, I think, and they talked about how much the food bank had distributed in 2023, and it was like 3.5 million pounds. And of that 3.5 million, 2.2 were what they call locally donated.
Yeah.
That includes everything from local companies, corporations, food drives like the Boy Scout thing or the mail carrier pickup, to individual donations. So like 2/3 of that stuff is locally donated. So that's how important donations are to the food bank.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
And even produce too.
Yeah.
I mean, farmers can take their stuff down to the food bank.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Where you're talking, I mean, that becomes not just donate a row, but cattle and maybe to the point of.
And we did have a farmer donate hamburger.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He had some cattle that
member here or.
Actually, it was someone from my hometown.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Well, that was generous.
Yep.
Have you seen a difference in Tyson since Tyson moved?
No, not from our level, we haven't, because they gave us a donation. What about middle of March? And they've done this twice now, 2 years in a row. And it's run through the local plant in Dakota City.
Yeah.
So when they were in the process of closing the corporate office and stuff here, when we got the first donation, and I asked the lady that does it, if this would have any effect, she said, no, we do this locally out of the local plant.
Yeah.
It still has to be cleared with corporate, but we run it locally. So she contacted me again, I don't know, around the 1st of March, and we set up another donation. And I think between the ground beef they gave us and then a cash contribution, it was over $2,000.
Wow.
So,
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, good. I was wondering about that, the whole transition, and seeing if that was something that impacted food pantries in particular with how they.
Well, and we had a guy from Lamar's that donated meat.
It was, I know his name, but what was their organization now? Actually, it's a group of pork producers that they package their own pork and they process it in Sioux Center.
Mm-hmm.
They store it in Lamar's at a NORAM cold storage facility.
Okay.
There's a gentleman there. He's actually related to Linda Urick somehow. Contacted Linda, and they donated pork chops and different pork products to us for off and on for a couple of years.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we need to call more of our farmers to donate meat. Yeah. Because they send them to lockers anyway, a lot of them.
Make hamburger out of it. Well, I think the one in Marcus actually was cattle that maybe had broken a leg, or,
You're in Marcus. You were
Marcus Eagle.
Born and raised in Marcus?
Yep.
Yeah. With Tom.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
I told Diane you can see the end of the earth from there. So
nice. See the end of the earth. Fun. Any lasting thoughts? I appreciate you guys talking about this, and obviously there's much to the conversation, but I appreciate you being here. Anything else you want to add?
We can always use, and we always appreciate volunteers.
Yeah.
We try to rotate, the groups. So if anybody is interested,
yep, let us know.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I got here, food pantry was one of those items. I asked, what is the church passionate about? And they said food pantry and being able to feed the community around. And that is so true. And so we have a very generous congregation, don't we?
Yes, we do.
That will write checks to the food pantry or even to the food bank. And as a church, part of our benevolence and mission, we give to the food bank. And, that's something that we'll continue to support, of course, because it's such a great need. And as we think about, especially those who are listening today that might not know much about the food pantry, food bank, and learn a great deal about, but that's why we give. That's why we invest not just money, but time, the passion to that. And so thank you guys for what you do in this. And I know you guys would be the first to say it's not just the two of you. You got a great team, a solid team that's here many times throughout the week, because we've got, so for those who don't know, our food pantry here is when? What are the days, times?
On Tuesdays from 4 to 6, Wednesdays from 10 to noon.
Very good.
And yes, it takes an army.
It takes an army. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. And thank you for listening and tuning in today on the podcast. And for more information about this, you can see our link and wherever this is posted. But this is good. We'll do it again sometime. And a lot of fun. God bless you.